So let's say you found a skeleton. How would you tell it's a dinosaur? You personally, how would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that.
All right, we are here with Kent with Bent 35, the Hovinator 2 Judgment Day. Don't ask me where the Hovinator is, because I don't have one. But I do want to say a very special thank you to Atheist Jr., who graciously let me use his photoshopped Hovinator 2 Judgment Day picture for my thumbnail, thereby relieving me of one of my weekly tasks. Because every week I have to come up with a name and a thumbnail for this, and every week I'm like, I have no idea what I'm going to do until, like, Sunday night. So, welcome everybody, and thank you for those of you who decided to come here and not to some other show that might also be live at the same time doing similar things. So that is much appreciated. We also have a special guest with us today, whom you may remember from Lyle with Landon, but he has not been on Kent with Bent before, and that is Legs. Legs, say hi to everybody.
Hi to everybody.
Hello.
Hi, Legs. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Pretty good.
Legs here is mostly just a mess of red pixels. I don't know why, but that's what he is.
It's a birth
You'd understand.
It's a birth
defect.
One of many.
Yep.
All right. So let us go over the rules for the drinking game should you choose to play. Let's see. So we drink whenever Kent Hovind says something that he gets unironically right, and he's not just quoting someone. So if he actually gets it right, we take a drink. That's always our least frequent cause to drink, but it is always a cause. I don't think we've ever got an episode where it didn't happen. So he does get stuff right. Let's see. We drink whenever it's just so stupid that we kind of have to. We also drink whenever we get a visit from one of the Toho Kaiju, which I will ask Bent to demonstrate.
I sent it. I did it.
Did you? Are you sure?
I'm sure.
It doesn't seem to have worked.
This
Hold
is
on.
why we test it.
Oh, we got... Oh, there it is. Oh. Oh my goodness. There you go. So that's our first drink of the night. Actually, it's two. It's two drinks.
It's two?
Mm-hmm. Because Godzilla went off twice. Also, for $2.99 from Scott Duke, he says, paying for my theater seat. Well, thank you very much. It is very much appreciated, and we are not going to debate whether it is the British/Canadian or the American spelling that is proper there. I am not a big fan of prescriptivist spellings anyway. So, there you go. Actually, let me switch over my monitoring on YouTube to viewer activity so I can actually keep track of super chats in case I miss any. Okay, so we also laugh whenever Kent tells a joke that it falls so flat that basically we didn't notice that it was a joke.
Yeah, you'll notice like 5 seconds later. Wait, that was a joke. Go back, and then you have to watch it again.
All right, now there might be a little bit of background noise for me, mostly because it is ridiculously hot around here, and I have to leave one of the ACs on. I'm sorry. It's like 115 or something, so yeah. I'm I need to not die today. Also, after this, I'm not sure exactly when because no one is exactly sure when. I will be on Gutsick Gibbon. Oh, there's Mothra. I will be on Gutsick Gibbon's channel. So after that, please head over there. You can find her. We'll link her channel in the chat, and also her channel is linked on my channel page. So if you missed the link, just go to my channel page and find the Gutsick Gibbon link. But anyway, when we last left off, Kent Hovind was telling us how the Alexandrian Christians didn't believe in the incarnation, which is amazingly stupid, because yes, they absolutely did. But hey, let's let's see how this goes, if I can find the right window. Okay, here we go.
And bookstores, of course, want to sell lots of Bibles, love of money, root of all evil, and they don't want to offend anybody. So, hey, let's sell a Bible version that doesn't offend people. So look what they did with Ephesians 3:9. Which for ages past was kept hidden in God who created all things. Well, they left off Jesus. You don't want to offend people, you know. And they made it ages past instead of from the beginning.
So, hold on. What verse was that?
Ephesians something.
Okay, let's double check. Okay, so this is Ephesians 3:9. So here's what we're going to do, everybody. We're going to check Ephesians 3:9 in Greek. And we're going to see if it says from the beginning or if it says from ages past. Because that's an easy thing to check on.
If you wanted to play devil's advocate, he didn't say Ephesians. He said Ephesians.
Ephesians?
Maybe
this is a new book of the Bible that Kent opened?
Yes.
He may have misspelled it or mispronounced it. I mean,
Have to scroll through. There we go. Oh, okay, go. There we go. Alright, so let's actually just bring it so you guys can see the... Here we go. Make it big enough. Oh, look! Ton Ionon from ages past. Aww, Kent. Oh, okay, hold on. Maybe it'll be different if we go with the Stephanus New Testament. Maybe it won't say Ton Ionon. Oh, nope. Ton Ionon. Okay, let's... Oh, Scrivener. Scrivener's another good one. Let's check the Scrivener. Okay. Let's see. Ton Ionon. Oh, that's from ages. Okay, hold on. There's got to be one. We're gonna get a Greek New Testament that's not gonna say Ton Ionon. I know it. Oh, well, this one gets all the nice little vowel markings and accents. That's nice. But yeah, Ton Ionon. So it's not looking too good. Tyndale House Greek New Testament. Ton Ionon. Yep. Okay, so that's why all these new Bible verses are using that, Kent. It's because that's what's in the frickin' Greek. You find me a Greek manuscript that disagrees. Just go look for one. Yeah. So it says from ages. Hooray for having a little bit of Greek so I can check.
oops, Kent.
Yeah.
Oops.
But
The Greeks got it wrong.
The apostles, they didn't know what to write in the Bible. It wasn't until the King James translators got there.
And it matters, Kent, to no one but you. Well, I shouldn't say no one, but...
Alright,
Not
so
too many.
I got a request to check Genesis 1:1 in the Septuagint.
I may be showing my ignorance of the history of the Bible, but what about the original Hebrew?
That's mostly the Old Testament.
Yeah, there's no original Hebrew for the New Testament.
And the New Testament is Greek with Aramaic dialogue.
Alright, so here is Genesis... come on. Get out of here, cookie notice. No one cares about the cookie notice. Anyway, so yes, in the Genesis 1:1, in the beginning is en arche. So not from ages, it's in the beginning. It's almost like you could express both of these things in Greek, and you have to use different words to do it. Aww.
Weird.
All
Are you
right.
suggesting that different ideas are often represented by different words?
Yes, even in Greek.
But the words matter, just ask Uncle Kent. No relation.
Let's keep going here.
Well, they left off Jesus. You don't want to offend people, you know. And they made it ages past instead of from the beginning. Nearly all the new Bible versions have changed it to say ages, ages, ages. And they leave off Jesus in every case. Except for the New King James. They left Jesus in there, but they still call it ages past.
And now we know why. Also, you know what word was conspicuously absent from Ephesians 1:9 in every Greek version we could find?
1:9 or 3:9?
3:9, sorry. The word Jesus. Yeah, it wasn't there. So I wonder why it's not there in all these translations.
Interesting.
That's the only one I could find that left Jesus in there, but they all changed it to ages. They don't want to get this definite 6-day, young earth creationist because it might offend people and, again, lose money.
That's why they interpreted Greek correctly, Kent, so they wouldn't offend people. That's it, exactly.
I think Kent, maybe Kent has it backwards, where he didn't want some booksellers understand that people who might prefer the King James version, they didn't want
Drink for
that
Godzilla.
particular market to be offended, so they put in Jesus Christ. And they put in the beginning of the world.
Yeah, that's a much more likely explanation. Yeah. So actually, Megan Fox's Giant Boobs says, if there's a new King James, is there an old King James? So yeah, the new King James is basically it's more or less an update of the King James into more modern English. So, yeah, that's basically all it is.
Why don't they have a medium King James?
That's a good question. You'll have to ask. Yeah. No.
We could spend hours on the different problems with these verses. The last one that bothers me is it the first day in Genesis 1:5?
Wait, we have a native Greek speaker in the chat. Icarus. Okay, I know that your first century Greek might not be, super great, so, but if you can, back me up a little bit, or let me know that I'm totally off basis. Because, we got a Greek guy here in chat, so if anyone would know, he might.
That's...
I mean, it is Greek from nearly 2,000 years ago, so, But, here we go.
Or is it one day?
Oh, I'm German, he says.
Wait, I have someone in here who's Greek, don't I?
All right. Decker got something so wrong that we have to take a drink.
We have to take a drink. Darn.
That's one of those unwritten rules, right?
Sorry, man.
When everyone gets something so wrong.
Everyone, if everyone could put the flag of the country that they live in as their profile picture, that would help me out greatly. So let's just do that.
The version that I found says one day.
Sorry.
To be fair, if the flag is something like the U.S., where you have a lot of people who are not born in the U.S. and have like all sorts of nationalities and languages speaking, like it wouldn't really inform what languages they do speak other than English. Or maybe you're just being facetious and I didn't pick up on that.
That's the one. That's the one right there.
Okay.
King James says the first day. Why would they change it to one day? Well, again, they're trying to allow for the long periods of time. And I don't understand how somebody can read Genesis 1:5 and still...
How does one day allow for a long period of time, whereas the first day doesn't? I just want to know, just from a semantics, English lit kind of standpoint.
I just want to hear Ken say this sentence he's saying. I want to hear the full sentence.
Maybe it's probably going with like the whole Lyle Landon, or I'm sorry, not the Lyle Landon, but where time is not always uniform. So one day could be who knows what kind of length, but the first day is a specific length for reasons.
Yeah, again, it just comes down to for reasons. Like I do not know why this becomes. Yeah, I don't know. Michael E says, "Morning, my fellow primates. Speak for yourself. Look on screen, man. I'm clearly a dinosaur. These other two might be primates, but I am not."
Jury's still out.
I'm a primate. I don't know about legs.
And
Yeah,
unidentified
I mean,
Leviathan, you're right. The Earth is not well, actually no, the Earth is not 1.3 or 5 billion years old. Both of those are incorrect.
4.6, as I remember.
It's much closer to 4.6. But yes, the day lengths have changed. In fact, we happen to know that Earth's spin has been slowing down, and at one point, where we have some of our earliest indications of the day-night cycle, including things like growth in early reef-building organisms, where they have daily growth rates as well as longer-term growths. We actually can figure out that around the beginning of the Paleozoic, the Earth's day was probably somewhere around 16 hours.
I remember reading it was around closer to 12, but maybe...
That was probably closer to the formation of the planet.
Yeah, okay.
Because you got to remember that by the time you get to the Paleozoic, the Earth has gone through a lot of its history.
It's true.
I believe there's a gap between verse 1 and 2 of any amount of time, more than an hour. The first day. It couldn't be more clear in my mind. A question that I get asked just about every week as I travel, what about the Bible codes? Is it true that there's a hidden code in the Bible, in the Hebrew? Well, there are all kinds of...
Bigger.
Okay, I'll make
I think
Kent
you should
bigger.
make Kent bigger because You and the Geth are in the way when he talks.
Not for my audience.
Books that have been written about the Bible code question, and we'll cover those in a second, but let me give you the basic concept. Grant Jeffries has a great chapter, just one chapter, but in his book called The Signature of God about this topic, the Bible codes. Here's the concept. If you take the Hebrew language, and only the Hebrew, and only the King James-backed Hebrew, by the way, and you put it in a computer with every single letter in a continuous string of letters, you can make like an acrostic, and by skipping letters, you end up with finding other words hidden in there. For instance, in every 13 letters in Deuteronomy chapter 10.
Okay, so this only works in Hebrew and only for the Bible, right? So I'm not going to be able to find a, say, a Moby Dick code, right? Like that's probably not a thing.
Nope, not a thing. Or is it?
Checkmate, Herman Melville.
Oh, hey, look! Assassinations foretold by Moby Dick. Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. Look at that! Oh my goodness! President Rene Mawad. Look at this. All of these wonderful. Look at them. It turns out that if you take out all the spaces and punctuation, and then you just start skipping letters, then, hey, the Moby Dick has predicted all of these crazy things. My goodness, what is going on?
What else has it predicted that hasn't happened yet?
Well, there's the real question.
Evidently, there's a code in War and Peace as well.
Look at this. Killed Lincoln. Oh my goodness, this is amazing. Yeah, as it turns out, if you just
on paper,
it turns out if you just take a big enough text and you allow yourself to do whatever statistical analysis you want, skip any numbers, go up or down columns or whatever, and as you, I'm not sure because I haven't seen it, but I'm extremely confident that he will go through saying, oh, if you skip this many numbers here, or this many letters here, or this many on this page, it says these different things. Yeah, as long as you don't have a preset actual method, and you're just allowing yourself to skip however many wherever you want, yeah, just statistically, you're going to find things.
You have to start in Deuteronomy 10 verses 17, only up to 22 though.
So, could I find Dapper Dino? I could almost certainly find Dapper Dino in both the Hebrew Old Testament as well as in Moby Dick. In fact, I believe it was Team Skeptic who used Bible code software to prove that one of the flat earthers who likes Bible code stuff was actually like the gay lover of another flat earther. And for some reason that did not dissuade his advocacy for Bible codes. But yeah, you can find literally anything in the Bible as long as you don't care how broad you can be with your interpretations of like how many letters you can skip, whether you look in columns or rows, or it doesn't matter. You'll find it. Just like you can find it in Henry, or now I can't remember the author's name because I can't have it on brain fart. Anyway, in Moby Dick. Herman Melville. Herman Melville, there you go. I was going to say Henry, I was like, that's wrong.
Spells out in the bitter sea of Auschwitz, the famous concentration camp for Adolf Hitler. Every 22 letters spelled out Hitler.
We're going to go past the Godwin's Law part. Here we go.
Would work for the government. Okay, for many years, okay? He's in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, but he's got some good stuff on the Bible codes. You can get his website, Khouse, for khouse.org. Good stuff on Bible codes. These are some of the things found just in Deuteronomy and Numbers about Hitler.
So I'm just going to actually quit. Oh my goodness, you're still on Godwin's Law stuff. Darn it, Kent. I'm trying not to be demonetized. Let's take a drink. Oh, and like, look, he's got this interval. Okay, so notice how the intervals don't actually seem to mean anything. Like, they're all over the place. If you skip every 9,670 letters, if you skip 5, I mean, like, if you go backwards every 134th letter, like, come on.
Right. I think it's just a demonstration that most languages have a pretty limited alphabet, and eventually other words can be formed. That's all it tells us.
Yeah, it's... the whole thing is just beyond stupid. So
I think that means we're supposed to drink.
Yeah, well, we'll drink again. And I'm going to skip again so we can try to somehow keep this thing monetized.
Century, long before they had computers, one rabbi said the secrets of the Torah are revealed in the skipping of the letters. Here's an example of how it can work. Rips explained that each code is a
no, I don't think that's what that is.
Okay, just checking.
Case of adding every fourth letter to form a word. R, E, A, D. Read the code. You skip every 4 letters, there's a hidden message inside this sentence. That's what Bible codes is all about. Is there a hidden message inside the Bible? In addition to the message you're reading, is there something else in there?
The
well,
one that
I don't.
God uses to trick us by hiding messages.
Is it a hidden message or is it a constructed message?
Yeah, it's so the way that these Bible code programs actually work is basically you can input things that you would like to see if it's in there, and then it will just spit out whatever interval number that you need to use in order to actually get that out. You can just make up Bible codes. It's trivially easy. If you have a computer program for it. Trying to do it by hand, yeah, it's going to take you a long time. It's going to be a pain in the butt, but still.
No. But in Genesis, if you skip every 49 letters, you can spell out Torah. Interesting. 49, 7 sevens. If you go to the book of Exodus and skip every 49 letters, you spell out Torah again, which is the Hebrew Old Testament, for God's Word.
I like that not only can we not apparently use Hebrew for this, right? We've got to use whatever's going on here as some kind of, I don't know, code for Hebrew. But even then, still, there's a block there on the second to last line. So even then, they're using a symbol that this font doesn't have. It's just, my goodness. How incompetent could you be at this? Oh, whatever.
The Torah, okay? Every 49 letters. If you go to the book of Numbers and skip every 49 letters, you spell out Torah backwards. And if you go to Deuteronomy and skip every 49 letters, you spell out Torah backwards. Well, wait a minute. Genesis, Exodus spell it forward. Leviticus doesn't have it. Numbers, Deuteronomy spell it backwards. They're both pointing back to Exodus. Exodus, every 7 letters, spells out Jehovah, Yahweh. Could it be there, Genesis, Exodus, Numbers, Deuteronomy are all pointing to the Lord? I mean, maybe that's just a pure coincidence, but I think the math...
Customer Ranger says Hebrew to ASCII, but I'm pretty sure there actually is an ASCII mapping for Hebrew. There is for basically any language with a significant real-world population of first language speakers. So if there's not an official Hebrew ASCII mapping, I would be shocked.
Mathematical possibility of that is real close to 0. It's almost like there must have been...
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah, didn't Reds do this to prove that Russian vids had sex with some guy, but also that he was the bottom? Yes, yeah, that is... I misremembered it, but that is what happened. Yeah, it's... Like I said, you can just do anything with this. Yeah, it's completely made up. If you want... Look, I bet I could find Torah forwards and backwards in those books and then link it up with the same interval to, like, Satan or something. So Torah's pointing to Satan. It doesn't matter.
And something to it. The Torah always points to God. Anyway, who created God? Every week, I get some atheist or skeptic call into my radio program or come to my seminar and say, hey, Hovind, you said the earth is 6,000 years old and God created the world, and who created God? I say, well, your question assumes that God needed to be created. Actually, your question assumes 2 things. That God...
It does assume that, so I guess I'll take a drink, because he did technically get that right. It's a bit trivial, but...
He's engaging with the argument, too. Like, that's not a dishonest criticism of that argument.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that if you want to argue that God doesn't need a creator, it does call into question why you think other things do.
True.
But, I mean, I will say it is not the best response to most of the arguments for God to say, oh, well, who created God? It maybe if your interlocutor is really, really inexperienced in the area, that'll, trip them up, but it probably won't.
The better question is that why does God not need a creator where others do.
Megan Fox Giant Boobs points out, but Dapper, that would require Kent to know what ASCII even is. That's a good point. I doubt he knows what ASCII is.
There's no way. I mean, maybe, but no.
It's possible, but I very much doubt it.
God needed to be created, and that God is locked in time like we are. Both of those are faulty assumptions. If God is infinite and outside of time, then he didn't need to be created. He just is. Now, the fact that my brain and your brain won't hold that doesn't matter, but it's the way God reveals himself. Here's Discover Magazine. What happened? What existed before the Big Bang? So in Genesis 1, it says, in the beginning. Well, what was before that? I'm going to have to say, nothing. There was no time before that. The question of where did God come from or what did God do before the creation assumes that God is sitting around locked into time like we are, and he has to wait for things to happen. No, he doesn't. He's not stuck in time. We are stuck in time. But both views, creation and evolution, assume a beginning of some kind, okay? You have to have a beginning. Even the evolutionists will say, nothing really means nothing. Not only matter and energy would disappear, but also space and time.
I was going to point out, nothing about evolution requires the universe to have a beginning. What Ken Hovind here is thinking of is this other thing called cosmology, which is not evolution, but also contradicts. Well, yeah.
Wait, this might be pedantic, but isn't it cosmogony that he's referring to?
Well, cosmogony is an aspect of cosmology.
Okay.
So, get wrecked, legs. I'm gonna take a drink to cool off after that burn.
His question still is valid.
No, it is, yeah. I'm just being a jerk. Kent doesn't know what time is, Dapper Dino says, Chesh. That, you know what, though? Actually, that's a kind of contentious issue in philosophy. So, I doubt that he does know what time is, but then again, I'm not sure I do. So, it's easy enough to measure certain amounts of time and calculate time dilation and stuff, but the question of what time actually is, it's a little tricky.
Yeah,
now they know full well.
Sorry.
Like from the time thing, we arrive at we can only perceive time in one particular way, so it's difficult to abstract it in any other way, let alone measure it. So it's like, yeah,
time is tricky.
It's true.
And it's exactly correct that if you have to have time, space, and matter come into existence simultaneously. See, if you had matter but had no space, where would you put it?
In a singularity.
Or if you could have space without matter. I mean, there's nothing in it, but there's space. Like,
yeah. The one that I would agree with is, I'm not sure that you could actually realistically define time without reference to space or matter. And probably both. Right. So, I'll grant that time is probably the one that needs the other two. But, or love. What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. There you go. That's the answer.
Space and matter but had no time, then when would you put it?
Time after.
You got to have time, space,
so
matter, a continuum.
Lyrics.
If you had length and width but no depth, you have nothing. It only exists in the imagination, okay? God says he inhabits eternity in Isaiah. Deuteronomy says he's the eternal God. Isaiah says, look unto, I am God, there is none else, okay? I am the Almighty God. Well, if he is the Almighty God, then he is not controlled by time, space, or matter. He is right now in tomorrow.
I mean, at least according to most Christian theologies, he's right. I don't really care. Like,
I mean, one can be eternal in that you will always exist, but that doesn't preclude that you had a beginning. And you can be almighty.
Yes, it does. You're thinking of immortal.
But being almighty, does that imply omnipotence, or just no one is stronger than you?
So, I mean, obviously in standard, like, Abrahamic religion, theology, it is omnipotence. Okay. There's some question as to whether or not that was always the case, and there are some parts of the Old Testament that make it seem like maybe God isn't all that omnipotent. For instance, at one point, the Israelites go to war, and it says that God was with them, but I don't remember who it was they were fighting. I'll just say the Philistines, just because it's usually who they were fighting, had iron chariots, and so they won anyway. It's like, so God couldn't beat iron chariots? Okay.
Maybe he just didn't want to. Like, yeah.
So, yeah, it's a little bit of on the complicated side as to exactly what the Bible authors intended by that. But modern theology in Christianity, Islam, and Judaism would all go with it's, a statement about God's omnipotence.
All right.
And Genesis 1 has an amazing trinity of trinities. In the beginning, that's time, which has 3 dimensions, by the way, past, present, future. God created the heaven, that's space, which has 3 dimensions, length, width, height. And the earth, matter, has 3 dimensions, solid, liquid, gas. A trinity of trinities.
Wait, hold up. What about the other phases of matter? I'm going to take a drink.
Yeah. And
apparently,
to say nothing of like triple points or anything like that.
I mean, yeah, so you know what? Plasma doesn't count, guys. There's no such thing as plasma. Kent Hovind said it. Even though I'm pretty sure that in his Dinosaur Adventureland, in one of those rooms, they have one of those little, those plasma spheres where they have little streamers of plasma and you touch them, the streamers go towards you. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure he has plasma in Dinosaur Adventureland. So he should know better than to say that there are 3 phases of matter.
Well, I mean, he's familiar with he's familiar with fire and stars, so he should be familiar with plasma.
Yeah. Oh, and then a bag of chips were mentioned. So today I made my own chips. Yeah, it was pretty good.
Go on.
So I baked some. So I thinly sliced a potato, and I coated both sides of each slice with a little bit of olive oil. Put them in the oven at 400 Fahrenheit for 20 minutes. Pulled them out, salted them, dropped a little bit of MSG on there, and also a little bit of cayenne pepper. And I had myself some potato chips. A few of them were a bit too thick and they didn't quite crisp up. But they were still delicious because, it was oily, salty potato. So, you can't complain too much.
As I understand it, the original, the origin of the potato chip came from, and maybe it's apocryphal, where there was this very popular snack in France where there were thicker cut potatoes that were crisped. And then one particular customer, I just kept sending it back, wanting thinner ones. And then the chef, wanting to be maliciously compliant and spite him, cut them so thin that they were normally eaten with a fork, that you couldn't actually eat them with a fork because they would break. And then he just loved it because he would eat it with his hands, and that was the birth of the potato chip.
I have heard other stories, but all of them are similar to that. And because I've been asked, those potatoes are not atheists. And if you don't know what that is, then which actually reminds me, so secularists, like the Secularist Society or something of MIT, added me to their list of people to follow, and so did oh goodness, now I'm gonna have to check. I have to double check. It happened on Twitter. Let me scroll up a second. Atheism Actually. And I'm like, well, I'm flattered that you guys think I'm someone to follow, although, I don't do atheism content, and I don't even really say whether or not I might be an atheist, but cheers, guys. I'm happy that you like my content. So, MSG, why can't you just say salt? Because monosodium glutamate is not the same thing as the sodium chloride I also put on there, and they're different chemicals.
Chemicals in your food?
Yes. And Fernando asks, when are we getting Dapper Dino brand potato chips? That's an interesting question. I'll tell you what. Anyone who wants to help bring Dapper Dino potato chips to the market should join the channel or my Patreon, or both, and pledge at the highest tier you can afford so that I can get enough money to actually invest in a potato chip brand, which will be basically MSG, salt, and cayenne pepper. That'll be the flavor.
What kind of potatoes did you use?
I just used some yellow potatoes of a kind that I do not remember what they were called. They're just big and yellow.
The
Just
Yukon
in
ones?
Probably. Here we go.
10 words. He says he did it. Okay, all I can do is believe that. Now in Revelation 10, it says, someday there shall be time no longer. At the end, it's over. There's no more time. And we got some beautiful songs. Amy, your husband, plays the guitar and violin, or not violin, banjo, and plays, we sing all these great songs in church.
Oh, and Ms. Atheist Jr., I did thank you at the beginning of the stream, so thank you very much for that that thumbnail. It was great. And it, like I said before, it relieved me of one of my weekly tasks.
When we've been there 10,000 years, well, that's a wonderful song, and I love it. but it's not true. We're not going to be there 10,000 years. We're going to be there. Time, space, matter must be created simultaneously. God says He did it. So the question, what did God do before the creation, is an invalid question. He is outside of time, space, matter. Totally outside of it. Nearly 200 times in the Bible, God says, I am. He is present. See, right now, it is not 2005, soon to be 2006, in a couple days, in heaven. There is no time there. No time at all. He is outside of time, space, matter. Jesus said, I am. He's claiming to be God. I am. I am. Well, it's all through the Bible. Before Abraham was, I am. They were going to stone him when he said that one, because they knew he was claiming to be God. I am the door. I am the vine. I am the light of the world. I am the good shepherd.
See, I wish there were more to talk about, because of this one, it's just like, I don't really care what your interpretation of these parts of the New Testament is, at least for the purposes of this, of Dapper Dino. Like, personally, do I have opinions on what the Bible is trying to say here? Yeah, but am I going to talk about them on this channel? No.
That has nothing to do with evolution.
Right.
Creationism.
So.
Well, maybe with creationism, but not the age of the earth, or
right.
The origin of life, or the origin of the species.
They knew he's claiming to be God. They didn't like him for it. Well, you know why he claimed to be God? Because he was. Next question. Who wrote the book of Genesis anyway? I mean, here we got a Bible claiming to be written by God, and we say, well, we know men wrote the Bible. I mean, come on. God didn't write the Bible.
A number of the books are named for their alleged authors. And none of them are the book of God. So yes,
none of them are even the book of inspired by God.
Right. The absolute most conservative Christian groups out there are definitely on board with the Bible was written by people.
And who wrote Genesis? Well, this is really a fascinating question. Who wrote that book of Genesis? The skeptics for years, like Dr. Pruitt, Eric, you want to meet I've debated him 4 times now at University of West Florida. He's a Genesis scholar. He believes that 4 different authors wrote Genesis. This is what the Germans, higher critics, started teaching about 160 years ago. They said, well, if you read through Genesis, there are 4 different authors, but you can tell by the style of writing. And they call it JEPD for Yahwist, Elohist, Priestly, and Deuterist.
Yeah, and there are actually really good reasons for that. Because all throughout the book, there are in fact these 4 distinct voices speaking, and sometimes the actual text that we have seems to repeat itself, but in different words, in the style of the different authors, because the text is actually a compilation that was probably put together sometime around the Babylonian exile. But let's go for Kent for a much more stupid option.
And they're actually partially correct. There are different styles of writing in Genesis. If you look at Genesis chapter 1, God created the heaven and the earth. God said, God saw, God divided, God said, God called. 31 times it uses the word God. When you go to chapter 2, starting with verse 4, there's a change. It says, Lord God, Lord God, Lord God, Lord God, all through chapter 2. It's using a different name for God, a totally different style of writing. People that study Hebrew say, wow, it's a new person's writing this. Correct. So who wrote Genesis anyway? Well, the book of Mark chapter 12 tells us, in the book of Moses, it talks about, how God said to Abraham certain things. That's obviously referring to Exodus. So here, the New Testament's telling us that Moses wrote Exodus. In Deuteronomy, it says if a man dies, has no children, the brother marries the wife, and the first child gets the inheritance of the dead father to make sure property doesn't get scrambled up. Okay? That was the law they had. Okay? Well, if you read in Luke, Moses wrote, raise up seed to your brother. So here Luke is telling us pretty obviously that Moses wrote Deuteronomy.
Okay. The entire Torah is referred to as the book or books of Moses because their traditional idea was that Moses wrote all of them except for the very last part where he dies. That was probably someone else who wrote that, because how would he write it? So, yeah. Maybe it was Moses. Maybe it was like the you'll find the Holy Grail at the castle. Ah! That's what it says. Ah! Maybe he died while he was writing it. You wouldn't write if you died, you would just say it and die. Yeah, maybe it's one of those situations.
I guess what I don't understand is why he's even arguing it, because it's clear that the Bible itself is an anthology of authors. Why is that any different if certain chapters may also be an anthology or a compilation?
So Kent is enough of a literalist to think that it's a problem that if the New Testament says Moses wrote something, for it to have not been literally written by Moses. Like, he will not allow the Bible could still be a reasonably accurate thing and have authors in the Bible referring to things in stereotypical ways that aren't literally true. Can't have that. But also, I think we're actually going to take our intermission a little bit early. We're probably actually not going to run the full 2 hours that we normally do for a number of reasons. One is there's just not that much to this video, and we're going to get through a lot of it. But the other one is that I actually, like I've said, I'm scheduled to be on Gutsick Gibbons' channel, and I want to make sure that I'm actually prepared for that. So I'm going to run the intermission. I have turned it down a little bit because I have heard some feedback that it was perhaps a bit loud, and I would rather have some parts of it be a bit too quiet than have any of it be inappropriately loud. So my co-hosts here, feel free to get yourselves a drink, and I will be right back. I want to take a moment to talk about something serious. There is a problem facing late surviving non-avian dinosaurs in modern America. Hunting is very strictly regulated, and only allowed at certain times of the year. This means that for much of the year we have to rely on farm-raised food, which means money. If you want to help a starving dinosaur, please consider donating on Patreon, or buying from my merch store. Links are in the description. Please help. Dinosaurs all over YouTube are depending on you to help them through the hunting off-season.
Nani? Dare? Oh, ゴジラですか? Hi, ゴジラさん.
All right, we are back now, and I even unmuted myself this time. Unlike the first time I tried to say that I'm back.
I'm checking to make sure.
Yeah, so... and by the way, Hayden no, the stream is not over. That is just the intermission video. Do not worry. There is still plenty of stream to come. We are, however, probably around the halfway point. Like I had said earlier, we're going to go a little less... we're not going to go quite as long as we normally do, because I'm scheduled to be on Guts and Gibbons' channel. So we're probably going to call it in another 40-ish minutes. We'll do some wrap-up stuff at that point, and then go check out Guts and Gibbons' channel, because we're going to do some stuff about a debate, as well as a new video, and we might even hatch some schemes. There might be scheme hatchery, so pay attention.
With a little searching through scriptures, you could prove conclusively that Moses wrote Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. No question. It never mentions Moses as the author.
Because Moses is called out explicitly as an author in the New Testament in various places for those books. I'm not actually sure whether or not that's the case for Genesis. I never cared even close to enough about the authorship of the Torah to check in the New Testament what it said about that, but...
Author of Genesis. So who wrote Genesis? Actually, Moses was the editor of Genesis. He collected it. But there were 10 different eyewitness accounts in Genesis. Adam actually wrote part of Genesis.
On what? When? What? Why? Why do you think that that's the case? How do you know that?
I'll explain.
Okay.
The way to tell where it breaks off, 10 different times in the book of Genesis, you will find the phrase, "These are the generations of." That's the switching phrase where a new author now is taking over. Apparently, God wrote the first chapter. There's no way any...
I love how Kent Hovind is so insistent that we take everything as literally as possible, and then he just comes up with this phrase that does not mean author switching, and he just says, nah, that's what that means. Why? Because I said so. Like, that's not what it literally means.
Like a crazy person that just keeps getting crazier and crazier the further he gets in his story.
Yeah, and the weird thing is, it really is the case that, like, every once in a while, I'm like, oh, I've heard all the Kent Hovind crazy there is. Like, I must have. No, I haven't. It goes so much farther.
The Hovind theory was so good.
Oh my goodness.
I had no idea that was a thing until we watched it.
Well, hey, you know what our plan is for after we finish the seminar?
What's that?
CSE 101.
Nice.
His alleged college class.
Nice.
Yeah.
One he teaches, or the one that like he took to get his quote unquote PhD?
No. This is one he teaches. Allegedly, according to him, some colleges accepted this course for credit.
What, like as in an exercise of what not to do?
I don't know. He wasn't very explicit about the details.
Anybody else would have known those things. But chapter 2, Adam was there for chapter 2. And Adam wrote chapter 2, 3, 4. Chapter 5, he switches off. Now keep in mind, Moses edited Genesis from 10 eyewitness accounts. He probably had the written on clay tablets, we would assume, preserved as a pottery.
Why would you assume that? That's not the normal writing material for Hebrew.
Who were those other 10 eyewitnesses? It was just Adam in the first.
I mean, Adam, Noah, Seth? I don't know.
I guess I assume that every chapter
Abraham
at least had those 10, as opposed to a total of 10 throughout Genesis.
Yeah, I guess we could go through the King James, although I think my King James might be in my car. Like, inside my apartment, I've got like 3 or 4 of my Bibles, but there's like another 7 in my car.
And that's your dino car, right?
Yes, it is specially designed to accommodate a dinosaur.
A Dever one at that.
Oh yeah, speaking of education, look out for that upcoming GoFundMe. That reminds me, we need to figure out whether Patriot University requires you to get the bachelor's and master's before you can get that PhD. So
I think it does.
We'll have to... I'll try calling their admissions office or something. Remind me, everybody. Keep reminding me. Because if you annoy me enough, I will definitely do it just to get you to shut up.
Record forever. You write on the clay, bake it in the sun, and it lasts a lot longer than a book lasts. And Noah would have taken some of these on the ark with him, the first few chapters, get a little box of clay tablets and carried on the ark. Okay? The fact that other people wrote down their account before Moses got around to doing it does not mean they got it right. And the skeptics will say, well, the Sumerian legend was written before Moses even lived. That's correct. And they'll say, see, that proves Moses was copying from them. No. If you got 10 people or 20 people that witness an event, and they all go home and they're going to write their story about what they saw, the first one to publish his story does not necessarily have it right.
You know what? I'm going to drink one for Kent being right, and then I'm going to drink again for him being stupid. So here we go. This happens occasionally.
Yeah.
Fernando, if I had the Death Note, you would never know, because I'm not going to be some idiot who just spills the beans about having the Death Note. I'm going to be tricky. Even trickier than Light was.
Light was pretty tricky.
Yeah, but I saw where he made mistakes, so now I don't have to make those same mistakes.
Make all new ones.
And also, you guys have found one of like maybe 2 anime shows that I've watched ever. So good job on that one. And it was actually at Legs' insistence here. Legs, I think there was a bet or something. Like, it wasn't for very much, but like, it was like, if I like the first season enough to finish it, then you win, and if I don't, I win, and I liked it enough to finish or something.
It was based on your apprehension to normal, typical anime, and insisted that there are certain anime didn't follow the typical tropes, one of which was Death Note.
Okay, yeah, that sounds about right. But, hey, I didn't like Season 2, but I liked Season 1, and it was a self-contained story, so I consider Season 2 more like a sequel than a second season.
Right.
So, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you actually making a recommendation that I liked. So, there you go. Light thought too small scale. I mean, that was part of the trickiness. What if you write Earth in the Death Note? What happens?
What if you write non-humans? Like, can you kill, like, oh, I want this sequoia tree out of my way. Does it have a name? I don't know. Like, what about, like, can you kill someone's pet? All right.
This is about Kent Hovind, not about Death Note fanfiction. We're going to keep going.
I was so lost.
The fact that somebody published first doesn't mean they got it right. Genesis 5 says the generations of Adam.
Oh, right. I forgot to actually say why he was right and why it was stupid. Because we got distracted by Death Note. Darn it. So I'm going to drink again just for me being stupid. Okay, he is right that eyewitness testimony often varies, and simply giving the first eyewitness testimony is not a good guarantee that it is actually the accurate version of the story. But he's stupid, because if you have 10 people claiming to be eyewitnesses of an event that didn't happen, like the flood, it doesn't matter how many eyewitnesses there are or when they said it, it didn't happen. And actually, in that case, the first one to come forward actually does become a legitimate option for the source of the whole story, because since it didn't happen, how did other people come up with such similar stories if they didn't already know the story? Because the story is fiction. So
Adam right there is signing off. Probably, again, clay tablets makes a permanent record, lasts for millennia. Chapter 6 is these are the generations of Noah. Noah is signing off right there. He wrote actually chapter 5 and part of chapter 6. In chapter 10, verse 1, these are the generations of the sons of Noah. Noah's sons wrote part. They wrote some more, and then Shem wrote some more after that. Shem apparently was interested in keeping track of where all the grandkids are leaving to. And the Genesis chapter 10 is called the Table of Nations, and it goes through 75 different original nationalities. And he kept track of all of them. Oh, yeah, my Uncle Herman had 3 kids, and these are his kids, and there's where they went. I mean, my oldest brother, is very interested in family trees. He went over to Norway to study the Hovin family tree, you know. And you find all kinds of people hanging from their neck in a family tree. But some people are just interested in genealogies, all right? I know people that spend their lifetime trying to chase back, you know, like the movie Roots, you know, where did my ancestors come from? Well, apparently, Shem was the guy of the 3 sons who was interested, or God led him to do it, whatever. But
wait, someone's ancestors came from LeVar Burton, apparently, like the movie Roots.
I mean, sure. Oh, I found the requirements for the degree if you are interested.
We'll confer about that. Actually, if you could send them to me, that would be great. And also maybe send them to Chesh.
Sure.
All right. Are they pine trees? Yes. Also, pine trees are atheists, apparently.
He kept the records. In Genesis 10, it's called the Table of Nations. It's kind of boring to read, but it just tells all the sons and what happened to them. Okay, chapter 11. These are the generations of Terah. Chapter 25. These are the generations of Ishmael. These are the generations of Isaac. Generations of Esau. When you read through chapter 35 of Genesis, you read it and say, what is this doing in here? It's all the dukes of Edom, you know, and the dukes of Hazard and all these dukes in here, you know. What's all these dukes doing in here in chapter 36?
That's a good question, because Duke is a title that comes from, feudal Europe, a system of government that was unknown to the ancient Hebrews. So it does kind of draw into question why the King James is so great when it can't actually come up with a word that makes sense.
Chapter 35, chapter 36. Why? Well, the guy who wrote that chapter was interested in that. And God wanted it preserved in His Word, but it's very interesting. No dates are given for these guys and how old they were when their sons were born. The only ones that get the dates mentioned of how old they were when their son was born are those in direct line to genealogy of Jesus Christ. Nobody.
What? I don't even know if that's correct, but I don't... Okay, sure, whatever. You know what? Whatever. Just go for it. Sure.
Nobody else matters, apparently. Okay? It's true they were there, and they were, good people, loved the Lord, but they don't matter. Jacob.
Screw those guys, I guess. My goodness. You were an ancestor for Jesus, so get out of here.
Wrote part of it. 10 times in Genesis, you see the phrase, these are the generations of. There's a great footnote in Henry Morris's Defender's Bible. I've got one around here somewhere. But we sell the Defender's Bible. We mentioned that earlier. I got a disclaimer. I disagree with some things, but it's really good. In his article about the Teledoth, it's called Teledoth, is fascinating about the Genesis author, 10 different authors of Genesis.
I'm going to drink real quick. The H at the end of Teledoth is not there so you can say it Teledoth. It's there to indicate that it's the dark or emphatic consonant in Hebrew, which is not an easy thing to convey in English. And I know that virtually no one knows what that means, but Semitic languages have a sequence of what are called emphatic consonants, and their realization changes based on which language you're talking about. In some Semitic languages, they tend to be aspirated and retroflex. They're most commonly realized as pharyngalized in Arabic, so it changes, right? But when you're transliterating Hebrew, TH what that means is that you're using the emphatic version of the consonant. You should not pronounce it as th, like Kent Hovind does, because he's an idiot who doesn't know anything about Hebrew.
So the skeptics are partly right. There are different authors. And it's always wise to listen to your skeptics. If somebody comes...
I mean, it is a good idea to listen to people who are skeptical of your ideas and have criticism for you. So you know what? I'm gonna take a drink, because you shouldn't live in an echo chamber. Kent got that one right.
I don't just... the thing is, he seems to apply that only when he can, answer the skepticism.
Oh, yeah, I mean, he's super hypocritical about it, but he's still right.
Yeah.
Atheist comes up and says, you got bad breath. Well, they might be right, okay? Now, if they say, you're wrong about the Bible, well, then they're wrong, okay? But
yeah, Kent Hovind has never been wrong about the Bible. Was that a joke? The bad breath certainly was. I'm going to take a drink, because that didn't land.
No one laughed, so it must have been a Ken Hovind joke.
That's how you can tell.
Genesis, 10 different authors, fascinating story, all of them eyewitnesses, which makes it even better. Of course, God could have written it yesterday and gotten it right, okay? He could inspire somebody tomorrow to write it and get it perfectly correct, not a problem. He can preserve His Word. But the fact that it was done through 10 different eyewitnesses, to me, kind of adds even more credibility.
Okay, so the only reason that I can think of for Kent Hovind to say that this was done by eyewitnesses is to add to the credibility. But now he's just shot that entire argument in the foot by saying it doesn't matter, God could inspire anyone to do it the right way anyway. So there's literally no reason for any of this argument. The entire thing has been a waste of time. Kent has been wasting our time, he's been wasting the audience time, he's been wasting his own time. I'm taking a drink because I just can't anymore. I'm like, no, Kent.
He's wasted the time of innocent trees producing oxygen.
Yeah, there's a tree out there working hard to make oxygen for Kent Hovind. He owes that tree an apology. Oh my goodness.
About this. The question I get, again, just about every week is, how did they have days before the sun? Guys like Hugh Ross say, well, maybe the first 3 days are different because they didn't have the sun, so they might be billions of years long. Well, he made the plants on day 3, so I doubt that's billions of years waiting for the sun to come up, okay? But how did they have light before the sun? In Genesis 1:3, God said, let there be light. This is the Hebrew word or. There are 2 different words in Hebrew for light. We have one word in English. I would say that is a light, and it produces light.
There's also
we only have one word,
light.
but it means 2 different.
That's true. But I'm just gonna go with it.
Well, actually, there's the adjective light. There's the verb light, like to set something aflame, and then there's the 2 different nouns.
Yeah, but yeah, it is more complicated than he's going with. But I think he's trying to make a point here, and I don't super object to him simplifying English for this, because I'm pretty sure what he's going to go with is, oh, Hebrew has a word for a light that is the source of light.
Different things.
Ooh.
We know by the context of what we're talking about. I'm talking about turn on the light or light up the room. You know, one is the substance or whatever light is, and the second one is the source of the light. God said,
photons,
God
Kent?
called.
What's that?
Could it be photons, Kent?
So you think the light came from photons?
Or whatever light is. He doesn't even know.
Yeah, I don't think he knows what light is. No.
Is he trying to say that like God created light, but not like the source of the light?
I think
feel
that's
like
where he's going to go. Yeah.
Yeah.
The light day, and it was on the first day. Well, apparently God, in Genesis 1, energized this universe with his voice. He spoke, and the electromagnetic spectrum was created. All the energy waves permeated everything. There's another word.
The energy waves permeated everything when God energized the universe by creating the electromagnetic spectrum. Is that coherent?
Say that again. Like I'm trying to wrap my head around it too.
I'm just gonna say it's not, even though I think it might be. I'm just gonna take a quick.
Can we listen to it again? Maybe I just.
Yeah, I guess. Although that's. We want to.
The electromagnetic spectrum was created. All the energy waves permeated everything. There's another word used in verse 14.
I don't even know.
For light giver. It's the Hebrew word meor.
Is he talking about what?
Neutrinos?
Neutrinos aren't on the EM spectrum, are
No,
they?
they're not.
I was gonna say, I think this is what I think he's trying to say, is that the EM spectrum was created, but it wasn't all in the form of visible light. And then later on, he created things that could generate things in the EM spectrum that is in the form of visible light. I feel like that's what he's trying to do, but he's really being stupid and ambiguous about it.
I don't know. Let's see what else he has for us. It'll probably be stupid.
Let there be lights in the firmament. The meor, that's the source of the light, as opposed to just the light. So God made them for lights, that's the meor, to give light upon the earth. The greater light to rule the day, that's the meor, verse 16. The Lord is my light, Psalm 27. That's or, not meor. Okay, he is the light, not just the source of the light. He is the light itself, okay?
It doesn't say that in that verse, Kent. Why are you adding things to the Bible? Aren't you supposed to not do that? See, this is one of the things that bugs me about Ken. It's like, oh, we have to take everything super literally. It's like, okay, but you're not doing that. You're adding in interpretations that aren't literal. You're adding in entire new ideas that aren't actually in the text unless you put them in there, just to keep what you think is a literal interpretation of the Bible. But that, in and of itself, makes it a non-literal interpretation. So just admit that you don't have to take all of these things literally, and then maybe you could stop being so stupid about science.
In the New Testament, they use the Greek word phos, like we get the word phosphorus or phosphorescent. God is light, radiance, all right? When I consider the heavens, the stars that God made, the Bible says the stars sang together. And there's a long conversation you can get into about, the energy from starlight and from sunlight maybe even has music involved with it. Besides just...
No, music is sound waves. Those are light waves.
Which requires, matter to...
Yeah, I'm going to take a drink.
Now, I mean, the sun is loud, like or at least potentially loud if there was matter between us, but...
I mean, I guess if you were sitting on the sun and somehow not burning up, you would probably be loud, because there's a lot of matter there.
A lot of reactions.
This light, it might also have music. In Revelation 21, it says they have no need of the sun, because God is the light thereof. The Lamb is the light thereof. The first 13 verses of the Bible, there is no sun, but they have light. The last 26 verses of the Bible, there is no sun, but they still have light. So,
okay, but those are different sections of the Bible. You don't get to just say that that's how it works in the first section, even though it doesn't say that, Ken.
it would not be correct to say you have to have the sun in order to have a day. That one spin of the earth in relation to anything is a day. Our earth...
Oh, Kent doesn't know the difference between a solar day and a sidereal day. I'm going to take a drink of that one. Whoops!
Whoopsie.
Oh man, Kent's getting even the basics off. In case anyone doesn't know, because the sun, because the Earth orbits the sun, the length of time it takes the Earth to spin 360 degrees relative to the background stars is not the same amount of time as the average time between noon and noon or midnight and midnight, right? In fact, during different parts of the year, because the Earth is orbiting at different velocities as it, approaches perihelion or aphelion or whatever, the actual time it takes for the sun to go from noon to noon also varies. The average is actually 24 hours, but the sidereal day, the amount of time it takes for the background stars to actually rotate exactly 360 degrees, is slightly longer than a single day. So, yeah, Kent, maybe double check on your basic astronomy.
Earth turns once every 24 hours, and we start our day at midnight when the sun's not even out. If the sun disappeared tomorrow, how long would our days be? 24 hours. Not for long, because we'd all die, but, at least they'd still be 24 hours. We just wouldn't know about it, okay?
Well, first we would know about it, because we could watch. Also, there would still be some heat. Additionally, it would actually be longer than 24 hours, because without the sun for reference, all that you have are the background stars, and so why not just go with the sidereal day?
We wouldn't be here. I think God created the sun later in the creation week purposely so His children would know, don't worship it. Worship Him, not the sun. Many ancient cultures worship the sun. You can go down to Mexico and see all the little sun symbols every place, all the gift stores,
Hey, he's right. Many ancient cultures worship the sun.
And the moon. And the stars.
But actually, I'm going to go ahead and say that I actually think it's reasonable to say that the intent of the biblical authors in writing about God creating the light before the sun may have been to discourage sun worship. I actually don't think that that is an unreasonable idea. I don't know that it's the case, but I actually think it's a reasonable hypothesis about the text. So
it's also something that doesn't really change too much from a scientific standpoint.
No, I mean, the text is still clearly not in accord with anything to do with science if you're going to take it literally. But, I'm just saying, I actually think that's a reasonable interpretation of why it's written that way. I just don't think that tells you anything about the actual history of the universe from a literal standpoint.
Yeah. People have them hanging on their walls, Sunday comes from, of course, all the days of our week are named after pagan holidays. Saturday for Saturn Day. Monday for Moon Day, Tuesday.
The moon isn't a pagan deity, it's just a thing. Sunday, too. It's the sun. The fact that people worshipped it doesn't make it a pagan deity. The sun exists independent of who worships it.
Day for Thor's Day. All of them have pagan origin. The names of our days of our week do. Okay, where was the Garden of Eden? The Bible says God put a garden eastward in Eden. So where was this beautiful garden? It says in Genesis 2, the river went out of Eden, parted into 4 heads, and one of them was named Euphrates. And people say, aha, in Baghdad there's a river called Euphrates, so that proves the Garden of Eden was in Baghdad.
Wait, the Euphrates goes a lot of other places besides Baghdad, so I don't know about that.
No. Anybody that studies this can tell you the Garden of Eden was in Pensacola, Florida. I mean, quite obviously.
What?
I don't know.
Although was that a joke that no one laughed at?
Oh yeah, it was.
Great.
I will say actually the Mormon Church does teach the Garden of Eden was in North America.
Was it like Jefferson City or something like that?
I don't remember. I would have to double check on that. But Yeah, the fact that the Bible references a well-known river probably means that they intended to have the Garden of Eden set somewhere in the area. Also, it's the area that the authors actually knew about, so again...
I don't think there's any possible way to know where it was, okay? The flood ruined everything. There's a city called New York, named after York, England. There's a city in Ontario called London, Ontario. I preached there. Guess what it's named after? London, England. When people came over from Europe to the New World, they said, oh, wow, that looks like, the old country. Let's call it the same name. That's all it is. Noah gets off the ark. They've been floating around for a year. They have no clue where they are. And they see a river. Wow, that reminds me of the river in the Garden of Eden. Let's call that one Euphrates. Okay.
So wait, Noah lived in the Garden of Eden?
And he didn't know where he was, but he knew that he got stuck on Mount Sinai?
Ararat.
Oh, wait, I'm mixing up mountains. But yeah, yes. He knew which mountain he got stuck on.
It's Palmyra, New York for the Mormons, apparently. According to Mark Von Wisco. Look, I'm not going to say it's impossible that the intent of the story is to say that this was a different Euphrates River, but it really doesn't go out of its way to make that clear. And again, this is Kent reading something into the text that just isn't there.
You got to pick new names. Say it's a whole new world. You get to pick whatever name you want. Garden of Eden's probably under 500 feet of mud or sand in Pensacola, Florida. I don't think there's any possible way to tell. Now,
well, sand is pretty much all of Florida, so if it were in Pensacola, I guess that would actually probably be accurate.
Gilbert Vincent, a good friend of mine, he's convinced the Garden of Eden is Jerusalem. And he gives some pretty convincing evidence for that that's where it was. That's the center of God's attention.
Is it evidence, though, or is it just conspiracy theory?
I was just going to say, I'd be curious to see what quote-unquote evidence there is the Garden of Eden was in Jerusalem.
We have hearsay and conjecture. Those are kinds of evidence.
Thanks, Lionel Hutz.
No, I don't know how you could know such a thing. But the world was totally destroyed by that flood. Everything was wiped out. No possible way to know where the Garden of Eden was. The Bible says nothing died before Adam sinned. Man brought death into the world. And guys like Hugh Ross will say, well, hey, didn't Adam eat plants? Don't plants die? Well, that assumes plants are alive. Okay? Look at
I wonder why we would assume plants are alive.
Huh. Are you about to say plants are not alive?
I think so.
Well, if they're not alive, then they're atheists, right?
Exactly.
Wait, no, that's not how that works. What? If they lack a belief in God, then they're atheists, whether or not they're capable of assessing the proposition, apparently.
Okay.
Genesis chapter 1, verse 11. God said, let the earth bring forth the grass, the herb, the fruit trees. And so the earth brought forth grass, herbs, and trees on the third day. Plants are made on day 3, sun made on day 4, verse 14. Are the plants alive? Verse 20. And the moving creature that hath life was created on the 5th day. Wait a minute, he just told us on the 3rd day he made the grass, plants, trees, and he made the moving creature that hath life on the 5th day. Is that implying that the plants don't have life?
It's implying they
if the things that have...
Yeah, no, it's not implying that at all.
If life are made on day 5, then maybe the plants don't have life in the biblical sense. Living creatures made on day 5. Genesis 1:24. Let the earth bring forth a living creature after his kind. Living creatures made on days 5 and day 6, apparently. Genesis 1:29. God said, I've given you every herb bearing seed, every beast of the earth shall eat the green herbs. He says, everything wherein there is life, I've given green herbs. It looks to me like there's a distinction here. Things that are green and herbs and vegetables don't have life, because the living things are supposed to eat them. All right? Cain brought the fruit of the ground. Abel...
Wow. Every time it says the living things, it gives some kind of qualification, like that moveth on the face of the earth, or that creepeth, or whatever.
Yeah, it's something that has 2 things associated with it instead of just the one.
Yeah, if you want to make the argument that the Bible doesn't think of plants as alive, you're going to have to do a lot better than this.
Like, it's obvious the Bible is distinguishing, like, animals from plants.
And fair enough, they are very distinct.
Right. That's all that you can fairly conclude from that, I think.
Yeah.
Brought the firstlings of his flock, and God did not respect the fruit of the ground. It doesn't have life. You can't get blood out of a turnip, is the expression.
I can get turnip juice, and then I can drink it. That sounds terrible, actually. Never mind, I'm not going to do that.
To have life, you got to have life and blood and death to please God. Without the shedding of blood, there's no remission of sin. Genesis 6, God said, I, even I, do bring a flood of waters upon the earth to destroy all flesh, wherein is the breath of life. Every living thing of all flesh shalt thou take, come into the ark, the fowls, the critters, etc., and take unto thee of all food that is eaten. Again, is there a distinction here? Living things get in the ark and the food, which would
that actually is coming closer to going with what Kent thinks is the case here. So this is actually one of the first times he's ever provided anything I would count as evidence for his stance. In this case, it's just his stance on what the Bible means. So I'll go with this. If the Bible thinks plants aren't alive, the Bible's wrong. But whatever.
obviously be the plants. I think there's a distinction, okay? The beasts, the cattle, the creeping things, the fowls, wherein is the breath of life. The Bible talks about the breath of life in the animals. All flesh is not the same flesh. There's one of men, one of beasts, another of birds, different kinds of flesh. He says in Genesis 9, every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you, even as the green herb. In Genesis 9, he says, now you can eat things that live and move, whereas...
See, every moving thing that liveth. So you're once again undermining the point. Because why are we contrasting liveth instead of moving? Why isn't the moving the important thing? Because plants aren't well known for their quick motions.
Yeah.
As before, you
go ahead.
could eat the green herbs. Again, I see a distinction. Living plants are not alive in the biblical sense. The life of the flesh is in the blood, Leviticus tells us.
Oh, the life of the flesh. Well, what about the other things? What about the life of the leaves or the life of the bark? See, that's the thing. So far, you've come up with one verse that seems to support you more than it does do nothing to support you.
I mean, this is like, okay, so animals have flesh because they have blood, but they didn't really understand vascular plants then and didn't know of any kind of analog to blood. So,
well, I mean, perhaps, but the other thing is, the word for flesh usually is synonymous with animal tissue, and soft animal tissue specifically. Like, it's... in 1611, you would not say that a plant has flesh.
And it's usually not even limited to organ tissue either. Like, or you know, like, it's usually just muscle and skin and fat and sinew.
Well, it also would include muscle stuff, too. Lungs would be flesh, and intestines, and stomachs, and livers, and whatnot. But, yeah, like... find a verse that actually supports your position, Kent. Not ones that just don't negate it.
The life of the flesh is the blood thereof. He says in Leviticus 17, ye shall not eat that which dieth of itself. Well, if you can't eat that which dieth of itself, don't we wait and eat the fruit, nuts, and stuff after they fall off the tree?
And they're usually not dead at that point. Like,
because they can grow into things.
Right. In fact, when you pick a fruit, most of those cells don't die. They take quite a while to die. Partially because they're full of things like protein and sugar.
Would that be a violation? If they're alive, then they died and fell off the tree and you ate it.
That is not what falling off a tree is for fruit. It does not indicate the fruit died.
Have a problem.
Some of the cells died to disconnect, I imagine, but I mean, not the whole.
But if we're just going to go ahead and say you can't eat anything at all that contains cells that died before you killed it, it's going to preclude eating any kind of meat too. Because I guarantee you're eating some cells that were dead before you killed that animal.
I'm a level 7 vegan. I don't eat anything that casts a shadow.
As soon as you pick it off, you'd have to actually eat them on the tree. Climb up the tree and try to eat the apple without...
No, because even if you were right... Oh, taking a drink. Ken, even if you were right that you were supposed to not eat anything that you didn't kill yourself, and you were right that separating a fruit from the tree counts as killing it, if you purposefully pick a fruit, you've killed it yourself, and now you can eat it according to your version of the Bible. By version, I mean interpretation. Oh my goodness.
Breaking it loose. Otherwise, you'd violate this scripture.
Oh, and it was supposed to be a joke, apparently, because he laughed at us. So I'm going to take a drink for that, too.
Bible talks about the tree of life, which bear 12 manner of fruits. The fruits can give you life, but the fruit itself, I don't think, is alive. The Bible says leaves fade, they wither, they fade. Over and over in the Bible it says they wither, they fade. It doesn't ever say they die. The reeds and flags shall wither. Isaiah 19, the reeds shall wither. Isaiah 40, they shall wither. Okay? All through the Bible you see the leaves wither and they fade. They are not alive because they don't have breath, they don't have blood, they don't have a soul. They're not alive.
Spirituals might beg to differ about the whole breath bit, but
Not only that, but not a soul? Does that mean that animals aren't alive?
No, he would say animals have a soul.
Oh, is it just not
it's a different... Yeah, it's like a different kind. I don't know. It's...
All dogs go to heaven, just a different kind of heaven.
Well, dog heaven is the same thing as squirrel hell.
That's true.
A car can die, but it's not alive. It's the word die is just a word we use. A computer can die.
So
it's this blue screen of death. Pavel, you
die or not.
So much for a literal interpretation of anything.
Well, yeah.
Get that once in a while. This computer died, okay? Oh no, now what do, right? The wind can die down, a dream can die, but none of those things are alive. It's just an expression.
My dreams are alive, Kent.
A plant is a complex, self-replicating food source. It has no blood, no breath, no soul. They are not alive in the biblical sense. So an animate...
Okay, but not all animals have blood. Are jellyfish alive in the biblical sense? I don't know. They don't have blood. They don't have breath. I mean, it's such a weird criterion.
When he says breath, does he mean they're aerobic or they actually have lungs? Because there's plenty of animals without lungs.
I don't know. Are fish alive? Maybe. I don't know.
The fruit in the garden, he was not killing anything. Adam brought death into the world, but death did not include plant life.
Well, that's convenient. All right, well, that is it for that video, which is actually convenient because it's about the timer that I was planning on giving a stop to this. So let's just do some quick wrap-up stuff, which one of the things is, hey, I will be on Guts of Givens channel shortly. So go head out, go check that out over there. If any of my mods could please put in the link, that would be much appreciated. I'm not exactly sure when I'll be on. That is, it's partly an after show for a debate, so it'll depend on when the debate ends, but whatever. Let's see, this Thursday, so not tomorrow, but the day after, is going to be the next episode of Creationism is a Mega Catastrophe. Should be episode 3, I believe. I actually just finished up episode 5 today. And there's going to be, it looks like there's going to be 6 episodes. So I'm going to finish up episode 6, hopefully tomorrow. And then dive back into finishing up the Speculative Evolution creatures. Let's see. I don't know what Saturday is, so don't ask. I'm actually thinking it could just be nothing. Every once in a while, I do let Saturday just not have a thing on it. Let's see, what else? I am still hoping that we get enough channel members to add in a new emoji. We could use like a Ghidorah emoji, that'd be fun, or something like that. But, you know, feel free to join if you want, or don't, that's fine too. Same thing with Patreon. If you do either of those, you will get access to the super secret Discord server, where I actually respond to most of the things in there, because I don't wake up to find like 500 new notifications that I'm not going to sit and read through. Unlike some other servers I'm on, where that is what happens. Also, it's where I post links to videos. So, for instance, if you were on the Patreon or the channel members, you would already have access to the next episode of Creationism is a Mega Catastrophe. Let's see. I don't think anything else is really coming up. Oh, wait, nope. Never mind. I'm almost certainly going to be on Cheshire Vic's channel either tomorrow or the day after. We're not sure, but we're going to be reading some comments. This is going to be a fun kind of, like, this is not going to be a serious stream where we go through, like, science or anything. We're just going to be reading some comments on a particular video. I don't want to spoil it, but the comments, I've already seen some of them. They are pretty hilarious. So stay tuned for that. Let's see. I think that's it for me. Legs, do you have anything that you want to plug? Anything coming up people should be aware of?
Not for me, no. I have nothing.
All right. Also, we have a $4.99 super chat from Eric the Tyrannoceratops, who said, could Godzilla have evolved from a theropod dinosaur during the Mesozoic era or after if the asteroid never hit? I'm going to go ahead and say no. I actually am of the opinion that Godzilla is more like a relatively primitive therapsid than he is like a dinosaur. And so I actually think that Godzilla is closer to being a mammal than he is to a dinosaur. So take that, Toho. Anyway, Bent, what do you got for us?
All right, so Copper Magma has recorded 3 songs on Sunday, and the mixes sound good. We're going to redo them, but the sound quality is there.
Okay.
So I'm excited about that. And then we're also on Spotify now, finally. Go to Spotify, type in Copper Magma, and just listen to the music.
There you go.
Just do it.
And also, coppermagma.com is another place that people can get your music, right?
Yes.
Okay, well, I think that is it for me for now. Thank you very much for coming, everybody. I realized that there was counter-programming happening elsewhere in the form of a debate on Modern Day Debate. So I'm actually now going to head over there and watch it on like ×2 speed to try and get as much of it as possible before I go on Erica's channel. So once again, thank you everyone for coming. I really appreciate it, and I want to give a special thank you to my super chatters, who are Scott Duke and Eric the Tyrannoceratops.